Thank you very much, everybody, and welcome to the Guardians of Grub, Becoming a Champion organisation sponsor launch webinar. We are going to record this session, so it will be available publicly. And I'm just going to give you a quick introduction and run through to the project. My name's Eleanor Morris, I work for RAP. This session is all about explaining what's involved with the Becoming a Champion online learning programme. RAP is an organisation based in the UK. It's a charitable organisation, and our vision is to have a world where resources are used sustainably. So this project is part of RAP's work. It's funded by DEFRA, and we are really keen and excited to work with the sector. Obviously, we're very sensitive to what has been happening with the sector over the past few months. We believe that food waste reduction is part of building back better. It's about managing resources as effectively and efficiently as possible. It's about managing the value of food as well, and about empowering and motivating staff to take action during this challenging time. We are really committed to helping the hospitality and food service sector, and we've been very fortunate to be able to work with the sector in developing this online project. So we've had an advisory group and we've been very grateful to them for their contributions in shaping and helping develop this online course. I'm just going to click onto the next slide. Hoping the IT is going to work for me. There we are. So the agenda today, I shall give some quick introductions and a bit of background to the project, and then we are delighted that George Hersey from Adam Handling Restaurants, who's been part of the advisory group, will give us some of his insights as to why food waste is important to him and to the organisation he works for. Wendy's going to talk us through the pilot overview, talking us through, giving us a walkthrough of the tools and the pilot pack, and then give us a live demo of the Becoming a Champion learning. Then Pete will talk us through setting up this learning if you've got multiple sites. Hugh will explain a bit about the UK Food Waste Reduction Roadmap and what Target Measure Act means and how that fits with this programme. And then I'll summarise and have some next steps. And we've got a couple of polls towards the end. So we're aiming to finish at midday, all being well. On to the next slide. So a brief introduction to the team. We have been working, so RAP have contracted this work, and Virtual College have been the delivery partners developing and creating this online learning. So Wendy will be talking us through later the fantastic work that they've been doing, and Lindsay as well, talking through, giving us a walkthrough of the online learning itself, so that you get to have a bit more insight as to the look and feel of it. My name is Eleanor Morris. I work with the hospitality service sector, hospitality and food service sector. Jade is our wing woman today, so she's managing the recording and the chat function as well. We've got Pete from our business engagement team and Hugh from the roadmap team as well, so both specialists with the hospitality and food service sector. A massive thank you. A thank you to you for joining us today. For those of you that are watching the recording, thank you for your interest. This is a pioneering programme. We are looking to work with you. This is a pilot. We want to learn with you as well. We want your feedback. We are very aware of the sensitive time that the sector is going through, and we're really mindful of that. So thank you very much for giving your time for this project, and to the advisory group for the podcasts and the case studies and so on that they have been able to provide as part of the learning. And again, Wendy will touch on that later. So I just wanted to give you some context as to why we are running the Becoming a Champion programme. What's the problem with food waste? What's the big picture? Just to give you some context about that. Why have we developed it in the first place? So if we look at this on a global scale, we know that 1/3 of all food is wasted across the globe, and 1 in 9 people are going hungry, and that's really not a sensible backdrop. We also know from an environmental perspective that food waste is contributing to 8% of greenhouse gas emissions, and obviously where there is waste, there is cost. So it is costing the economy as well with all of these losses. To put that in context in terms of the climate change impact of food waste, so if food loss and waste were a country, it would be the 3rd largest greenhouse gas emitter after China and the United States. So if you are an individual or an organisation that wants to take action on climate change in your hospitality and food service business, then tackling food waste reduction can be part of that journey and the messaging to your clients. So in the UK, we in the sector throw away over 1 million tonnes of food every single year. 75% of that food could have been eaten, and it's really that area that we want to focus on. We want to reduce the amount of good food that ends up in the bin that could have been eaten. This project is all about feeding people, not bins, and helping you to build that into your business culture. Not only is there a vast amount of waste, but it's costing the sector over £3.2 billion a year. So how do we focus on that 75%? Well, WRAP has done a lot of research in the past. You can see this is back in 2013. And what we did was look at where is that food waste actually coming from? And what we did was split that into 3 categories and use some data from other sources to see what were the typical arisings from a number of different outlets. And this is the average split that we found. And that's really interesting for us to understand where we can pinpoint our support. But from an individual site, you need to know what that split looks like for you. And that's exactly what this course will do. It will help you to turn the data from food waste tracking into information like this, so that you can then pinpoint the hotspots that are right for you. And we've also introduced a 4th category, which is other, so you can make that right for your business. So for example, you might want to have overproduction as your other category, or you might want something like coffee grinds, where you can't really change that, but it's going to be a constant amount of food waste that's created, so that you're just capturing it. But it's whatever is right for you. And so you can get your own tailored split using the calculators or Unilever Food Service Wise Up on Waste, and then you can work with the team to talk about, okay, well, in this case, how can we tackle food preparation? And the thing with food waste, particularly in a commercial kitchen, is you can't meter it. You can't look at how much it's costing you, like electricity and other utilities. You have to use humans to tackle and understand where it's coming from and provide the solutions. And that's the exciting part about this project, is the hospitality and food service sector by its nature is innovative, creative, it's passionate. And so it's really about taking this to the next level and creating those solutions. So if you've got a lot of preparation waste that might be coming from peelings from potatoes, for example, you might want to be thinking about just not losing the peelings, keeping the peelings, skin on fries. KFC have done it. There's lots of opportunities and great innovations that we want to capture throughout this project and really galvanise the change and really create a community of champions as well. So an overview, this project is a learning approach. So it's all about behaviour change. It's, you know, it's moving from, that sounds sensible, to actually taking action on reducing the food waste, taking positive and proactive steps. It helps to raise awareness and increase that awareness of the impact of food waste, but also how to tackle it by integrating the daily measurement of food waste within everyday operational activities, building into business strategies and helping to report that, so that there is a circular process within the business and improvements, continuous improvements throughout that. Our ambition for WRAP is to increase the amount of food waste reduction data that we have, and also understand the actions. So it's the quantitative numbers as well as the qualitative learning and competencies that are being developed throughout this. The scope is for all hospitality and food service sector businesses across the UK, regardless of size. It's for everybody. And throughout the timing of this programme, we will be able to provide users with trackable cost savings, help you integrate that within systems, build your employees so that they feel empowered to take action. And as I mentioned, the competency increase and confidence with talking about food waste and taking action on throwing less food in the bin. So the benefits to learners are they will receive certificates. Wendy will talk about this later, building their confidence and knowing that it is the right thing to do. And as an organisation, this creates case studies. It gives you better data so that you can put yourselves forward for awards to engage with your customers. We know it's attracting staff. We know it's important for customers. We've seen in the Food Standards Agency tracker that food waste is increasingly important for customers and clients, of course. And also we can build any opportunities that you find into our awareness raising programme for Guardians of Grub, which will be happening in the new year. And again, you will receive progress reports, but ultimately we know it's the right thing to do. This is about feeding people, not bins, but giving us the data, turning that into information, and then building that into the knowledge of the organisation is really important. So without further ado, I shall hand over to our guest speaker, George from Adam Handling Restaurants. We're delighted that George has been able to join us today. So I shall hand over to you, George, if you're okay to speak.
Perfect. How you doing? Thank you, Eleanor. Yeah, it's been a really interesting group to be a part of. It's really, an honour to be invited to it. But I'd like to say firstly that, RAP and Virtual College Guardians of Grub in general have done an amazing job at gathering together all sorts of people, leaders in the different sectors across the whole country, not just restaurants from my perspective, but from the NHS and schooling and everywhere. So I think throughout this course, there's going to be a really varied and adaptable service for everyone. So I'd urge everyone in all different sectors to get involved, not just from my perspective, but, from us, sustainability has always been at the core of our business model in general. So we've got restaurants all over London, East, Central and West, focused on trying to utilise all the ingredients, sourcing correctly, having a zero waste approach to food. But now we're sort of, after this crisis, even more so than ever, for me, the most important time to engage with this course and to reduce food waste, not only through cost, but for me, from a sustainable perspective. I think if you focus on that as the key ingredient in your business, then you start living more sustainably throughout the rest of the business as well. So work-life balance and the wider global footprint as well. I think once you start tackling and really, engaging in that one aspect, it will roll out after that too. In our business already, we've been utilising, as Eleanor's quite rightly said, peelings and different offcuts of meats using the whole animal. But this is going to take it a step further, and I think with the advisory group that's been helping with the information and the learning platform ahead, we've really got a good tool to reduce that even more. And I think that comes down to really looking at the bins, seeing what's in there, why is it in there. Coffee grounds being a good example. In our restaurant group, we utilise coffee grounds to make a coffee infused Negroni. So using the grounds, we also make compost and have mushroom sacks used in the coffee grounds as well. So utilising that whole ingredient's been massive. But for us now, it's down to cost, because we're coming out of this crisis, having to make a huge amount of redundancies, like I'm sure that a lot of the country has in all different departments. But cost now is more important than ever. So if we can start, as you say, motivating and engaging, certainly the younger team as well, to consider cost and the implications of food waste in that, to keep the business alive, then we don't have to make more redundancies and we keep a healthier business. So for me, it all comes down to cost as well. And then once you tackle that, you're in turn helping the environment, becoming more sustainable. But it's an easy way, certainly, to motivate managers who are looking after the P&Ls to say, right, let's look at this, focus in and then work from there. And as I said before, I think we've been given this really rare opportunity coming out of COVID to go in with a fresh mindset. It's almost like, certainly in our restaurant group, a rebirth. We've had to close restaurants, we're hopefully opening more restaurants, but it's such an uncertain time that if we can really focus on things of good quality and of importance, then everything's going to become much more positive. And I think it's given us a chance to really reevaluate our key goals and motivations moving forward. But I'm sure that's going to be nationwide. But yeah, I think it's going to be a really exciting platform. I encourage throughout all sectors to get friends and other businesses involved in this too, because I think there's absolutely no negative. All it is going to save you money, help the environment, and yeah, it's great. So enjoy it.
Thanks so much, George. That's really lovely of you to have said all those words, kind words about the work that we've been doing. But we are really passionate about this project, and we would love as many people as possible to join in this pilot phase. So thank you for endorsing that. I am going to, excuse me, stop sharing and hand over to Wendy from Virtual College.
Thank you, Eleanor. That's great. Thank you. Good morning, everybody, and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you, George, for that lovely overview. Great to have you with us on this journey. So I'm going to give you a bit of an overview now of the pilot, what it means for you, the actual structure, how it's going to work, and then I'm going to do a bit of a demo, technology permitting. So I'm hoping that everybody can see my screen okay now. Great. Okay. Thank you. So I just wanted to start really by giving you a bit of an overview of Guardians of Grub. Eleanor's giving you a taster. What I want to do is kind of dig into it in a little bit more detail and really kind of bring you on this journey with us. So what is Guardians of Grub Becoming a Champion? Well, very simply, it's a behaviour change learning programme which is delivered online through our learning management system. And I apologise for the amount of text on some of the slides. But we are obviously recording this and wanted to make it available and make it as clear as possible for everybody that may want to be involved in this programme. So the programme is designed to change behaviour and evidence action by raising awareness of how food can all too easily become waste in day-to-day work, learning how to take positive action to reduce food waste, and measuring food waste by following a simple step-by-step process to help you see really how much food is being wasted within your organisation. So the actual course consists of an introduction and welcome section, and we'll look at that in a little bit more detail, but it's also got 5 core learning levels, which is based on current understanding and experience of food waste, based around a competency framework that we've designed with RAP, alongside RAP. So the course is actually underpinned, so you've got the learning content, but it's actually underpinned by champions who are actually working through the content, inputting daily food waste measurements into the system. And what that really helps us to do is to gather and track data so that we can monitor progress and results. And participants will be receiving supportive email communications and downloadable takeaways and virtual surgeries along the way to really support them and keep them going. Organisation sponsors, which hopefully are those people that are watching this and on the webinar today, will receive visual monthly pilot progress reports to keep you updated as to progress throughout the pilot on your organisation and the pilot as a whole. So we've identified some roles for use within the pilot, and we refer to these roles throughout these slides, so I wanted to define these for you now. So the definition of a champion is basically any user that's involved in the pilot who's working through the learning content and measuring and tracking food waste. So that includes all participants and data custodians as these definitions now. So an organisational sponsor is an owner and a pilot lead. So that's hopefully those people that are on the call and watching this today. So you'll have access to in-system reporting for your team progress. You'll be able to track and see how your learners are actually working through the content, working through the online course. You could be a corporate business, you could be a small business, you could be a trade or a membership body. A data custodian is a dedicated site team member, so still a champion, but they're working through all of the learning content, but they're actually taking responsibility for collating that daily food waste tracking sheet and inputting that into the system on a once a week for our reporting purposes. Then you've got participants, which is any team member working through the learning content and food waste measurement tracking for their own learning and their own journey. Any data that the participants enter, we will not be reporting on. It will still be all tracked in the system, but for the sake of this, the pilot and having access to data, it's the custodian data that we're going to be monitoring. So the roles for data custodian and participants are technically exactly the same. They're both going to be working through the learning content. They're both going to be tracking and measuring the food waste throughout that pilot period, but it's only the data custodian data that we'll be using from a reporting basis, just to clarify that. So what does the course look like? Well, the course structure is very simply broken down into a number of different modules, or levels as we're calling them. So the welcome and introduction level will really introduce you to the program, introduce the learners to the program, and there's a number of different kind of learning activities and assets that we've built alongside the advisory group and with RAP. So there's a welcome video from 3 experts at RAP who happen to be Eleanor Morris, Hugh Jones and Pete Rayner, who are on the call today. There's a short interactive self-assessment activity that we've built, and that's really designed to help learners identify what the best level is for them to actually start their learning journey at to becoming a champion. There's a pre-program evaluation to benchmark their perception and to give us an idea as to where they sit currently in their perception and understanding of food waste and their motivations to change. There will then be a final evaluation at the end of each level so that we can assess any skills change or behaviour change. And there's a pledge certificate, and this is actually quite a crucial part of the programme. So this pledge is a very simple pledge asking your champions to actually pledge their commitment to becoming a champion and really being an ambassador for food waste within their organisations. Once they've made that simple pledge, which is a digital activity within the system, they'll be able to download and print their pledge certificates. So what we're hoping is that they'll be able to proudly display them within your organisations. Maybe in the kitchen you could have one wall that's dedicated to your champion pledges, and again that's something that you can then shout about in social media and when you're talking about it with your customers. So you've got the initial first welcome and introduction level. All your champions will be asked to go through that level to give them really good background and information on the course and what the expectations are. And then there's as I said, 5 different learning levels, and they include a range of mandatory and optional multimedia resources. And this is really designed to keep the learners engaged, really make it interactive, and really showcase some of the great work that's been happening right across the sector in reducing food waste. So there's a number of different elements to the learning levels. There's learning activities, which include things like case studies. We've created some podcasts with sector experts. There's a number of videos, there's practical guidance from experts sharing their top tips and quotes and experience, and there's tools and templates practically that you can then download and use within your roles. There's also a short assessment to check knowledge and understanding as the learners work through each level, and there's an end of level evaluation to really encourage feedback. So we're very conscious, this is a pilot, we're very conscious of the challenges that's being faced in the sector right now, and we want to make sure that we're able to be agile and tweak things as we go and encourage feedback. And at the end of each level, learners will be able to access a success certificate for them to again print out, keep for their own personal development or to share within your organisations. So within each level, it provides the learners with best practice and top tips around 5 key topic areas related to food waste reduction. So these 5 areas are getting started, and that will cover core knowledge at the start of each level. There's measuring food waste, so it covers things like tips and guidance and tools that learners can use to actually practically measure food waste. The building awareness topics include ideas and really practical ways to raise awareness of progress across your teams, your organisation, your community, your customers, to really showcase what you're doing. The reporting sections really highlight why food waste reporting is so important and what that data can actually tell you as an individual but also as a business. And then some keeping it going top tips, so some really creative ways to as to how you can keep food waste reduction going either post the level or post the programme, to really embed it as part of that culture within your organisations. Measuring food waste is going to be critical throughout this pilot programme. So champions will need to record daily food waste measurements using a 7-day tracking sheet that's been created or other internal tools. So it's really important that they actually track the amount of waste that's being recorded on a daily basis. You can then, learners can break that down by food waste category if they wish. So those categories that Eleanor was talking about earlier, or they can track it as one total non-segregated measurement if that's easier. So that's up to you as an organisation champion, how you want your champions to actually work with that. And then taking those tracking sheets or that data, champions are asked then to transfer those daily food waste measurements into our system using a simple weight-based sliding scale tool, and we've called this the Champions Food Waste Measurement Tool, and that's within the system. And that's really what we're going to be using to analyse the data. So what does the learning journey look like? So obviously I'm going to just do a bit of a demo shortly, but just to give you an idea of where they start, well, learners will start at the beginning, as you'd expect. So they'll start with an introduction and welcome, where they'll do a competency self-assessment activity. They'll make their pledge to becoming a champion. What then happens is that other levels are then opened up to them. So we're not restricting any levels. So even if the self-assessment activity says that a learner is best suited to start their level at level 4, all levels 1 to 5 will be open to them to actually dip in and out of the content. There's a lot of really practical foundational stuff that can really be useful for them regardless of the level. So then they actually work through that level with those resources and those activities based on those 5 key topics that we talked about. So getting started, measuring food waste, building awareness, reporting and keeping it going. They then access their certificate and they can then level up if they're going to continue their journey through the framework, as it were. And each level includes a variety of different types of content. So there's videos, there's kind of e-learning activities, there's website links, there's case studies, infographics, there's knowledge checks and evaluations. And we're underpinning all of that with reminder emails and notifications throughout their journey to really keep them motivated and make them feel connected. And it's really, as I've said, underpinned with that food waste measurement activity so that we've got visibility of the data that's being recorded and we can monitor the success of the pilot. So in terms of kind of logistics and expectations, so Ellen has hinted at this already, but the actual programme has been very much developed by business for business. We've built an advisory group and we've really taken their advice and taken their recommendations and insights to draft the most appropriate programme that we think is best suited for the hospitality and food service sector. So it's suitable for all businesses. It's open to corporates and small businesses, trade bodies and membership bodies. And we're looking for at least 200 completions for the pilot to give us some really good data. If we can get more than that, that's fantastic. We appreciate there may well be dropouts along the way. We also really appreciate it's a really difficult time for the sector right now. So any involvement you can give would be really well received at this point. Alongside the participant support that we're going to be giving, there's also organisation support, and we'll look at that in a little bit more detail shortly as to what that practically looks like. The pilot will be open for learners to start working through from the 1st of September. And we've taken recommendations from the advisory group. We've actually extended our pilot to run until the end of February, with the last organisations being able to start their learning journey mid-December. So mid-December will be the last point when you're able to actually start the pilot. Pick a start date to suit your organisation. We really appreciate things are difficult. We've got education organisations, we've got NHS, we've got restaurants and pubs, and it's a difficult time for everybody across the sector. So it's really important that you choose the right start date to suit your organisation. While the pilot is going to be open from the 1st of September, you don't need to do that. You don't need to start on the 1st of September. You can start a little bit later to suit your organisation. We're running a launch webinar, a little bit similar today, but it's going to be focused around participants. So the data custodians and the participants are very welcome to join a webinar that we're running on the 14th of August at 10 o'clock to really give them some background as to what the program is, how they can work through the content, and really get them excited about what food waste reduction could look like within their organisations, but also for their own personal development moving forward as well. And we will be submitting reports to organisational sponsors on progress and benchmarking against the baseline measurements that will be taken as part of the pilot. So expectations then, so there's a number of things that we really need to make this work. So expectations from the organisational sponsors, so from you guys, we'd really love you to internally promote the pilot programme within your teams. We'd like you to identify some champions that you want to be involved in the programme, so one data custodian per site, but you can have as many participants working through the programme as you wish, and you can really see this as a development opportunity for your staff as you reopen again. We would like you to support and motivate your champions as they work through the programme. So really giving them some practical support, maybe discussing how they're getting on in team meetings and one-to-ones, and encouraging them to display their pledge certificate in the kitchen or some other area that you think is appropriate. Champions, so the data custodians and participants, we'd like them to take a baseline measurement for the first week of the pilot and record daily food waste measurements using the 7-day tracking tool that we've created that you can print out and stick above the bins in the kitchen to make it really super simple. Those daily food waste measures then need to go into the system. And then we need a minimum of 8 weeks worth of food waste measurements to actually work through to gather some really good data as part of this pilot. Champions can start at the most appropriate learning level for them. Again, we're not locking any level. They can work through all of them if they'd like to. But if they want to start at level 3 and work up to level 5 or whatever works best for them, it's a really flexible way of working through the content. It's anticipated that one learning level can be completed per week, and each level will take roughly 2 to 3 hours to complete. What we've actually done is put together an estimated level duration for you to give you an idea of the type of time expectation that we're asking your learners to work through. So the welcome and introduction level, it's that foundation, it's that introductory level. It's going to take about 30 minutes. As you work up through the levels, it can take a little bit longer. So level 1 is about 99 minutes. Level 2 is about 152 minutes. Level 3 is 140. Level 4 is about 147, and level 5 is 127. Now, timings are estimated at this point. So what we've done is we've looked at all the different activities as part of the levels and come up with some estimated completion timescales. Level durations are also going to vary from champion to champion, depending on their previous knowledge of food waste, their roles. There's lots of different kind of external factors. So these timings can be used as a guide, and these level contents, the level contents are subject to change, which may well shift the timing slightly, but this is just to give you a baseline, if you like. So access and support. So how do your champions access? So organisational sponsors, we're asking you to send us a completed champion user upload spreadsheet. So what you need to do is identify your champions and your data custodian, and then we've got a template that we'd like that data in. So you send that over to us, and we will then be uploading that into the learning management system, which we were going to be running the programme through. From this learning management system, your champions are going to be able to access all their learning levels and the champion food waste measurement tool. Learners are going to receive automatic email with their login details, but they can also subsequently log in from this link here, which we will also be sharing with your champions as part of the pilot pack. Whilst the programme can be accessed on any device, we would advise champions to work through the learning content in the learning management system on a desktop or laptop or a tablet device. And this is really because there's a number of PDF documents which can be not that easy to read on a mobile phone. However, mobile phones can be used to input the daily food waste measurements if preferred, so they can use a range of devices to actually work through the content and track their food waste data. We're going to be running as I said, a webinar, so we're very conscious. We want to support your participants and your champions through this programme. So we're running a launch webinar on the 14th of August. This will be recorded and uploaded into the learning management system for future reference, so that you can share it with your teams as well. We're going to be sending them weekly emails to data custodians and participants to keep them motivated, to check in with them, make sure they're okay, to keep them going on their learning journey and keep them motivated. And we're sending them reminders to input their food waste measures. So this is really important for us, that we gather that data as well as track their learning journey throughout each level. We're going to be running fortnightly virtual surgeries. This is for the participants, so for the champions and the data custodians. As they're working through the programme, we want to offer them support. So there'll be drop-in virtual surgeries that we're going to be running using Zoom, so similar to how we're doing today, where we can offer support and guidance. There'll be guest speakers from our advisory group, and really answering any questions that participants might have to support them as throughout their journey. And there's evaluation. So at the end of each level, there's an evaluation asking them for their feedback. So how are they getting on? How are they finding the course? To really give us some practical, useful information. And we're supporting sponsors too. So sponsor organisations, we've put together a pilot pack, and I'll go through what's involved in that pilot pack shortly, but it's crammed full of really useful practical tools and guidance that you can use to help you just get started with your champions on this journey. You'll have instant access to in-system data on reporting and learner progress. So you'll be set up as a manager within the system, which will allow you to keep an eye on your learners and see how they're getting on, so that you can check in with them and discuss it within team meetings and one-to-ones throughout your pilot phase. And we'll be sending you monthly infographic reports illustrating progress. And those infographic reports will detail total number of food waste reduction savings since baseline measurements. It will translate that into cost savings, in CO2 emission savings, some really practical graphs and tools that you can then use to discuss with your team and higher up the business. And again, you'll be invited to dip into those fortnightly virtual surgeries as well. So just a few data protection things, and this is all detailed in the pilot pack. So just some data protection on how RAP will be handling your details. So RAP will be managing the pilot information and data with third parties, and all data management practices are subject to RAP's privacy policy. We're not asking for any sensitive information from your champions. All we need is their first name, their surname, their email address, and some really basic information about the organisation name, so that we can kind of track and support them throughout the programme. So all personal details are subject and in line with GDPR, and they will be handled accordingly. Food waste data, so any data that's submitted throughout the 8-week pilot data submission period will be held in confidence and not shared beyond RAP and contracted third parties. So no data will be published without explicit permission and having achieved your consent. If you'd like to submit a case study highlighting any savings that you've made and the progress that you've achieved throughout the pilot, you can submit those to RAP. They'd be really happy to take those and work with you on those case studies. And if you're attending any webinars that are publicly available and recorded, they'll be explained on that webinar. There's a few kind of technical bits and pieces that we've identified in the pilot pack contents that we'll be sending to you, but there's a few site links that you'll need to whitelist just to make sure that your champions can actually access the sites. So the key 3 sites are listed here. So the Guardians of Grub Pro vc-enable.co.uk, that's the learning management system. So you don't need to necessarily remember that. We just need to get your IT guys to whitelist it. The WRAP website and the Guardians of Grub website, we're signposting to those, as well as a number of other ones as well. And there's some contact details there, and all of this is outlined in the actual pilot pack that we're going to send you. So just looking at the timeline, what does that look like? Okay, so we're currently nearing the end of July. We're in the final stages of preparing the learning management system for the pilot. We're running this launch webinar to get you on board and to get the ball rolling in terms of the organisational sponsors. The month of August is really all about supporting your champions. So getting your user data, getting your champion upload spreadsheets from you, listing who your champions are. We'll be uploading those into the system. We'll be running a launch webinar for them. And then we're asking you to support that internally within your organizations as well, through emails to your teams, through team meetings, and posters that we've designed that you can pop up around the business. So the pilot is actually running from the 1st of September to the end of February. So whilst we're expecting the learning content to take 1 week per level, the actual food waste measurement data, we need that for 8 weeks. So you can choose when you want to start this pilot to suit your business. So it opens for learners to work through from the 1st of September, where your learners will then be enrolled in the welcome module. As soon as they've completed that first welcome module, all learning levels will then be unlocked for them, so they can start at the most appropriate journey for them and work through. And we're asking them to track their data, track their food waste measures on a weekly basis for that 8-week period. We'll be sending motivational nudges and emails to the champions, and we'll be sending visual reports to you and to WRAP to keep you updated on progress, so that you can have those conversations within your teams. The month of March is all around looking at the data, analysing the data from the pilot, and making recommendations for wider rollout across the sector to WRAP and DEFRA. So we've been working really hard on putting together a pilot pack to include as much information as you will possibly need. Okay, so the pilot pack contents includes launch webinar recording and slides from today. So if you want to refer back to it, if you want to share it with other organisations to get them involved, you can do that. There's some pilot engagement terms. We've run through them briefly today, but they're outlined in a bit more detail within a pilot terms document. And there's an upload spreadsheet template that we've created. So it's really super simple for you to actually input your learner data and send it back over to us so that we can upload them into the system. We've also put together a breakdown of the entire programme, and that looks at each level, including the welcome level. It looks at what is included within each of those levels, the type of activity it is, and how long it's going to take. So you'll have access to this complete programme breakdown as part of the pilot pack to give you some guidance. We've also put together some other useful promotional email wording that you can use within your teams. So if you wanted to spread the word and let your teams know that they're going to be involved in this program, in this pilot, we've got some templated email wording, excuse me, there that you can use. We've got an FAQs document that we've been putting together, and that will evolve. So we will be sharing that with you on a regular basis, but that does form the part of the pilot pack. There's that 7-day tracker that we've been talking about. So that 7-day tracking sheet that gets stuck up, printed out and put up above the bins to allow your champions to actually track their food waste on a daily basis, either broken down into those food waste categories or as one total measurement. And we're also asking them to capture the number of meals served or covers served on that day within that tracking sheet. There's a poster there that you can print off and download and pop up in your organisations. So this pilot pack will be made available to everybody after today's session, so that you've got everything you need to get started. and really kind of getting involved. So what do you need to do to get involved? So email guardiansofgrub@wrap.org.uk to register your interest as a sponsor organisation. As soon as you've done that, and as soon as we know that you want to be involved, we're going to send you the sponsor pilot pack. You need to identify your participant champions and your data custodian champions. You might only have one data custodian, or you might have more, depending on how many sites there are within your organisation. We'd suggest you ask all champions to attend the webinar on the 14th of August, and we'll send you the details for that. And then complete the champion upload template and send it back to me personally, because we'll be uploading that data into the system. And then you can promote it internally through emails and team meetings and posters, and monitor progress through the system, and hopefully see some great results. Now, I'm conscious I've been talking for quite a lot of time now. I know we've got a Q&A after the demonstration. So what I wanted to do really now is just give you a whistle-stop tour of the learning management system and take you through the platform itself. So if you bear with me, I'm just going to stop sharing this screen. And I'm going to pull up a different one, technology permitting. Okay. Okay, so I'm hoping you can now see the dashboard for the Becoming a Champion learning management system. I can't hear anybody, so hopefully this is what you're seeing. So this is once they've logged in. So we obviously send them their login details. They'll get an automated email from the system, which will give them their unique link to log in for the first time. Once they've done that, they will be taken to this main homepage. This main homepage is where they will be able to access everything they need for the pilot. So they access their learning from their learning journey, and they input their food waste measurements using the food waste measurement tool here. So it's really simple and straightforward. If they've completed any levels, or they've taken that pledge, all their certificates will be accessed from here as well. We've also got some handy links to the Guardians of Grub website and also the WRAP website here for further support. In terms of navigation, these key icons are accessed also from up here as well. So this is a dashboard link from the top of the site as well. So it just means that they can quickly flick backwards and forwards as they need to. So for the purposes of today, I'm just going to go into the learning journey, and just to give you a taste of the structure and how it all hangs together and what it looks like. For the purposes of this demonstration today, we've only got level 1 available. The actual content is the rest of the content is being uploaded into the learning management system next week. But they will start their journey at their introduction and welcome level. So until they've actually completed this welcome level, no other levels will be available to them. So within this welcome and introduction, it gives them some great information around how long it's going to take them to complete this level, what they're going to learn, what they're going to expect from actually working through this particular welcome section. And we've been very busy developing lots of content with WRAP, lots of content with the advisory group, and that's all directly feeding into the programme. So we've created a video to get started. The WRAP team have been filmed, and they're sharing their expertise and why this is so important. So I'm just going to flick through some of the slides just to give you a flavour as to actually what it looks like. And there's a video there that Eleanor and Hugh and Pete are sharing their expertise. I'm not going to run through everything, but just to give you an idea of some of the different types of content that you'll find here. I can then go back to the module view. So there's a self-assessment activity. Wanted to show this to you quickly as well, because this is a really interactive activity. It's built in an authoring tool, and it really is designed for to give learners really help and support on identifying which level they're best suited at. So it asks a series of questions based on their previous knowledge, their roles, their background, their experience, and then it makes recommendations as to what's the most suitable role for them to level for them to actually start their journey at. So it then will come up with a summary as to the most appropriate level for them to start their journey at. For the purposes of today, all of the activities are unlocked just so that I can dip in and out and show you the different types of resources. But within the actual program itself, when learners are enrolled, there'll be a series of locked activities, so they have to complete certain activities in order. There'll also be some optional activities if they want to just encourage further reading and knowledge. We've got some PDF documents here that they can then download and use as part of the program, and there's an evaluation for them to complete. So this is going to ask them a series of questions to gauge their perception, their knowledge, their understanding, so that we can then benchmark that against any progress later throughout the program. There's a pledge which we've created. So as part of it, this is a really important part of the course. It really helps establish behaviour change, a commitment to behaviour change. So this pledge will basically ask them just a couple of questions. Do you commit to being a guardian of Grub and becoming a champion? If they answer yes, that's great. They can answer the next question. And do they commit to inputting daily food waste measurements into the system? And they must answer yes to both of these to be able to get their pledge certificate. So that's the welcome section. As soon as they've actually completed that welcome section, like I said, all the other levels will then be unlocked so they can then access their learning. Just to give you a bit of a flavour of level 1 and the type of content it involves, I'm not going to work through all of this because there's quite a lot of content in here, but we start each level with an overview as to what this level is actually going to cover, how long it's going to take to complete them, and what the learning outcomes are going to be and what our expectations are of them. We start each level with practical guidance, and this practical guidance has been collated throughout all of the advisory groups, throughout our work with RAP, and it's really exactly what it says. It's practical guidance, it's top tips, it's quotes, it's best practice. It's really important. It's a really important document. There's all sorts of different types of resources that they'll find here. So there's PDF documents, there's videos, there's case study information, some really practical case studies, some of which we've created specifically for this program, and some ongoing resources that they can use. There's a short assessment at the end of each level. There's just 10 questions. It should take them no more than 10 minutes to complete it. They're all multiple choice. We've tried to make it as easy as possible, where they are asked then to complete the questions, which will be then linked to their certificate. Oops, sorry, didn't mean to go back that far. And there's also an evaluation. So at the end of each section, there's an evaluation where we can check their knowledge and understanding, and again, how their motivation has changed as they work through the program. Okay. So all of the learning content is underpinned with measuring food waste, and that's accessed through the food waste measurement tool. So they can either access it from the main dashboard, from food waste measurement tool here, or they can click on the top toolbar here, depending if they're in their learning. So for the purposes of today, oh, you can ignore that one, should have deleted that, but there's two types of measurement tool. There's one for the data custodian, and that's the data that we're going to be taking and tracking and reporting on as part of the pilot progress. And then there's a champion food waste measurement tool, which is for everybody working through the content apart from that data custodian. So they will only see one of these. If they're a data custodian, they will only see the data custodian food waste measurement tool. If they are a participant, they will only see the champion food waste measurement tool, but they work in exactly the same way. what we're asking them to do is that we've built a really simple sliding scale tool to really quickly grab their food waste measurements. So we need 8 weeks worth of food waste data. So using those tracking sheets that you can stick above the bins, once a week they can input all their food waste measurements on a weekly basis, or they can do it on a daily basis if they prefer. So we've broken it down into the different weeks. So down here you can see week 1, week 2, week 3. Anything that's highlighted in red is not started. Anything that's in green is completed. Anything that's in blue is in progress. So as you can see, I've actually started week 1. It's in progress. So I'm just going to click this and I can see, okay, well, I've done Monday, but that's all I've done. So if I click on Tuesday, it presents a very simple sliding scale for you to track your preparation waste, your spoilage waste, your plate waste, and any other. So that could be those coffee grinds that Eleanor was talking about earlier. So really quickly, they just say, well, actually, today I've had 13 kilograms of prep waste. I've got 4 of spoilage. I've got 6 of plate waste. I've got 1 of other. If they want to just track it all in one non-segregated food waste measurement, that's fine too. So they wouldn't in that case break it down, they would just use one sliding scale measurement here. We'd really like to know how many covers that equates to. So let's just say on this particular day you did 70. And if there's anything you'd like to tell us, so if your measurements fluctuate, it'd be great to have some background information around that. So it could be that you've had a really busy day, or you did, you know, it was a quiet service day, or it could be that it was a half day, or that you were you had a big wedding or a big event. There's also an option to say not applicable. So for those individuals that aren't working on certain days, they can say not applicable, I wasn't working on this particular day. So it's only the data custodian that we need every single day's worth of tracking for. If you hit save and complete, and then close, it will then mark Tuesday as complete. So we've tried to make it as simple as possible. This can be accessed on a mobile phone, just using that very simple sliding scale and that drag over. And they will then be able to see their progress. And that really is a very quick whistle-stop tour of the learning management system. One of the
Sorry, Wendy.
That's okay, not quite finished yet, but I just wanted to give you an overview of some of the types of resources that we've been building as well, so the content examples. So if you bear with me 1 second. Okay, so here we go. So we've built that self-assessment activity that I showed you earlier, and that is made up of a series of questions that helps guide them to the most appropriate level to start their journey at. So this is just some screenshots really of that process. We've created a lot of podcasts. Massive thanks to the advisory group for being involved in this. So we've created 7 podcasts in total, really capturing some practical case studies, top tips, best practice, success stories, challenges, to really help our champions learn from successes, but also learn from failure. So we've captured them from Martin Lewis from Bluestone, Adam Handling Group, George and Adam, thank you so much, Jerry Boyle from Zero Waste Scotland, and a number of others as well. And we've been busy creating some practical tools as well. So we've got some infographics, so handy tips on how to reduce waste. We've got food waste reduction action plan, a physical document and activity for your champions to work through. That's just some screenshots of what that pledge looks like. So it's actually quite visual. We've really tried to be as visual as we can with all the resources that we've created. Loads of practical guidance with some top tips and quotes and guidance from our experts. We've created some wording for food waste reduction policy or standard operating procedures for you to use within your roles and your organisations, to use in job descriptions, etc. We've created top tips on keeping it going. So after you've completed level 5, when you've got to the end of your journey, what happens next? So some really great ideas around sharing successes, around talking to your customers and continuing to engage your teams, and submitting awards and case studies, those sorts of things. And that's just an example of what one of the success certificates looks like. So I have definitely talked enough. So that's me done, really. Has anybody got any questions at all?
Thanks so much, Wendy. We have had questions coming in thick and fast while we're talking, which is great. We had some great questions, so just wanted to pick up on some of those that were asked, specifically the ones that were around measuring and data. So you and Lindsay might want to pick these up. Jade, are you all right to ask those questions? I think one question was, will the documents be adjustable for different areas of the business to be able to record it in different departments? So I wondered if you wanted to explain a bit more, Wendy, about how the sponsor and data custodian aspects work.
Yeah, okay. So the quick answer is that for this pilot, the majority of the documents are not editable. They're designed for all participants that are going through the program. The difference between the roles, just to pick up on your point there, Eleanor, is a data custodian is somebody that is taking responsibility to input the food waste measurements for a reporting perspective. A participant is anybody that's actually working through the program. So they're both champions, and they're both working through the learning content. They're both measuring and tracking data, but it's that data custodian food waste measurement data that we're going to be reporting on as part of the pilot progress, and that's what's going to be driving the reports and the stats and the infographics that are coming out.
If you've got multiple sites, Wendy, you can have multiple data custodians then.
Yeah, I saw that question. Absolutely up to how you want to do it. So yes, you could be the data custodian yourself, and you could collate all of those food tracking sheets and input the data yourself for one site, as it were. Even though you've got 8 sites, you could just input it as one measurement. That's entirely up to you. The value probably is to break it down per site so that you can see if different sites are handling their food waste differently and you're getting different results, and if it's giving you any trends or anomalies. But it's entirely up to you how you want to do it. So you could have 8 data custodians in that example, or you could have 1, depending on what information and what data you want to gather.
And as a sponsor, you could see the summary of all 8 sites.
Yep, absolutely.
Right.
So you will be a manager within the system. So it's kind of a bit of a hierarchy in the system. So you will be able to see all of your 8 data custodians in that instance, and you'll be able to see how they're working through, and you'll be able to see all the learners working through the different learning levels.
Fabulous. And we had another question, just to reiterate, if you are uploading the data but you can only do it weekly, even though you'll be capturing the days, that's fine.
That's absolutely fine. Yeah, as long as it's input weekly at least, so that we've got that consistent data coming into the system, that's fine. So some of your champions may want to do it on a daily basis when they're working together, when they're on shift, which is absolutely fine. You might find that it's easier for your data custodians, for instance, to do it on a weekly basis. So every Friday or every Sunday, whatever suits them best, they can then input all of that data into the system in one go. But it's up to you how you want it to work. Really, it's flexible like that.
That's great, thank you. Any other questions coming through, Jade?
No, that's it so far. All the other questions have been answered by the panelists, and I've put them in the chat for everyone, and I'll take them afterwards as well.
That's brilliant. So what we'll do is we'll take those questions and build them into the frequently asked questions sheet that will be part of the pilot pack as well. So hopefully everyone's got all the information that they need to get ready to set up. And thank you ever so much, Wendy, for that walk and talk through of the system, but also giving us an insight to what the online learning will look like. And again, please do keep those questions coming on the chat, and we can pick those up at the next pausing point. But without further ado, I'd like to move on to hear from Pete, who is going to talk us through approaching learning if you are a multi-site or corporate business, and the steps to take as part of that. So I shall just try and click the slide forward. There we go. So Pete, are you able to chat?
I am, Eleanor, thank you very much. Yeah. If you go on to the first slide, that would be fabulous. We are so excited about the development of this programme, and so the next couple of slides is about the potential support and commitment needed by organisations to ensure that this learning, as it happens, begins to take root. And so, although it's talking about setting up for multi-sites, principles apply to all businesses really. So the aim, so that all this good work doesn't fall by the wayside, is to get food waste as an integral part of business culture. And experience shows that all too often at the starting position is that food waste is an unintended consequence of doing business, and this is the sort of behavioural change that we need to start working on. So getting strategic engagement is absolutely critical and vital. So the course, together with measurement, is the beginning really of an organisational and cultural change and a behaviour change. And it's all about doing the right things. And so key to this really is it needs to be led by the senior management team and or owners of businesses. This is where the whole initiative, it's essential that early on we get buy-in to what it is we're trying to do. And of course the old adage goes, if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. And so the first piece of the jigsaw is to know how many tons of food your business is wasting. And as Eleanor said right at the beginning, there is an impact to your bottom line if this isn't addressed, and we know that on average it's about 10k in every outlet. So it's absolutely essential. We all know also, which has been mentioned, that mandatory food waste reporting is just around the corner. And so this is really about keeping a business ahead of this curve and making sure that when this does come down the track, that your business is absolutely on the money when it comes to being able to deliver food waste or reductions in food waste. And so at senior management team level or board level or at the owner level, it's absolutely imperative that everybody becomes educated in terms of what the bigger issue is all about, the measurement process and the implications that this is likely to throw up, and then of course the potential impact of learning development, because learning is knowledge, and when people start asking difficult questions, we've got to make sure that we've got the answer for them. And probably the best way to start this is through business impact assessment, which we can support you with. And then, of course, as we look at business impact assessment, this begins the planning process and the commitment to act, which will then enable this course to flourish and this program to flourish. So it's all designed to support the learning outcome, really. So once we've got to that particular point, the next piece of the process really is to start the journey and to start bringing it to life. And again, once that's all established, the most important thing really is to get internal stakeholder and team engagement. So who are the owners of the project? Who's going to be impacted by the project? Where are these pilots going to be? Who's going to lead on it? So, but similarly, we need to empower the teams. So clearly we need to make sure that there are people around within the business who've got the responsibility, of accountability and authority to act on whatever this is likely to throw up. And part of that process is to ensure that we've got agreed project scope. And part of that, of course, is then to assess, well, what are the likely outcomes that we might get. And then from there, the pilot studies, food waste measurement pilots, which again we can help to run alongside these, and indeed in one or two organisations this is becoming the norm, to link food waste measurement pilots with the learning and development platform that you've been learning about today. And so part of those, part of the mobilisation of these pilot studies is to make sure that we've got all the necessary practical solutions in place, make sure we've got the team briefings, and I guess again, to link it back to the learning, it's making sure that there's a reason that is created for completing this program, and a reason for being part of food waste measurement as we know it. And so it really is making sure that we look at it in the global context, we look at the reasons why we're doing it, but also to make sure that we understand what the local impact on the ground is. And so part of this journey and part of bringing it to life is to get stuck in. Let's go and have a look at the sites and the locations. Let's understand where we're going to site all the equipment. Have we got all the equipment we need to make it as easy and as practical as possible to bring this to life? And of course, experience shows that once we start on and embark on this journey, and we start learning and we start measuring and we start asking questions about, well, how is this impacting on the future? And so step 3 is all about what next. The genie will well and truly come out of the bottle. And so it's all part of then review the learnings and the findings. And this is ongoing throughout the process, but ultimately this is going to lead to some detailed action planning for the business, and starting to scope the sort of change that some of these pilots and some of the data that's coming through, what sort of change are we going to have to implement in order that we can actually deliver a food waste reduction program. And invariably, experience shows that there is a need for change, not just in relation to what have we discovered at the coalface, i.e. in this instance, where champions are going through and discovering that they've discovered food waste, and they're recording food waste, and they're beginning to learn and know and understand what this food waste is all about. But clearly, this is going to have huge impact potentially across the rest of the business. And this is why, going back to my first statement about getting the senior management team and executives on board, is sometimes what we learn as we start to do these detailed pilots, and what we're going to learn through this program, is it extends beyond the locality. So local changes may be possible. Local changes can be acted on almost remotely. But in many, many cases, it's about going back and looking about processes and systems that have actually generated this waste in the first place. And so more or less every single discipline across the business is going to have to answer some questions about what does this mean for some of our key performance indicators or critical success factors. And in many cases, as Wendy mentioned, there's no point in doing this unless we're going to keep it going. And so part of this ongoing review with senior managers and executives and owners is about making sure that the ground is fertile to keep it going forever, I guess. And of course, what this then means is ultimately it's going to be extended to other stakeholders, because whilst we're going to be looking in units, in kitchens, with people, we know that food waste extends all the way from the farm to the fork. And so there are going to be, or there's going to need to be, a lot of questions asked about what do we then do with our suppliers, our customers, and our clients. And so, in summary, I guess what this little session is about is saying, we want you on board, we'd love you to get involved in this, but this is also an opportunity to think about the wider implications of unleashing some learning within your organization and being prepared for what might come out, and how do you make the ground fertile for this to continue. Thank you.
That's brilliant. Thanks so much, Pete. That's really helpful to set that context and organisationally how we can build this programme. I can see there's some questions on the chat, so we have got some time now for questions and answers for Pete, or more generally. So Jade, are you right to run through those questions, please?
I can't see any questions in particular. There was just a question about the slides being made available, and yes, they will be. They'll be part of the pilot pack after the session. It
does take a while to write some questions sometimes, so we'll just pause for a moment. But yes, we'll absolutely have these slides as part of the pilot pack, as Jade says, and the recording will also be available as well for you to share on YouTube and on the Grub website. I think what's particularly insightful from Pete's work is the insights that he has had in setting up food waste measuring pilots, and the sort of the changes that people go through once they see food waste is happening, and more importantly that they are empowered to do something about that. And you know, as Pete has emphasised, that cultural change, that ability to enable teams to take action is really powerful. But they need to have that empowerment and that responsibility given to them to make the most of these opportunities. So I shall move on, Jade, if there's...
Yeah, no, nothing.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. And thank you so much, Pete. That was great. I shall now move on to Hugh, who is going to talk us through the UK Food Waste Reduction Roadmap and what Target Measure Act means within that, and how Guardians of Grub fits within all of those. So Hugh, are you able to talk?
Yes, good morning, if you can hear me.
Yes. Yep, loud and clear.
So it's the slight issue with the slides. There you are. Okay, good morning everyone. Just like to give you a brief overview of the Food Waste Reduction Roadmap. And from what we've heard today, in simple terms, I think we now appreciate that food waste is costing your business money, it's affecting your bottom line and having an impact on the sustainability of your business in every sense of the word. And the roadmap is a way of making a commitment to take control of your food waste, and is applicable to small and large businesses alike. So whatever position you're in, then the Food Waste Reduction Roadmap is a means of making a commitment to take action. And one thing we haven't really discussed to a great extent today is the food and drink material hierarchy. So I'd just like to spend a few seconds on that now. Typically, the higher up the hierarchy you are, the greater the chance for cost savings, and the lower you are, the more likely you are incurring unnecessary costs. So the trick then is to prevent wherever possible, reuse, rework, to keep food waste off the plate. As soon as it's on the plate, then obviously there's very little you can do about it apart from encouraging consumers and customers to eat it. Where surplus does arise, then the next opportunity is to redistribute that where possible. And again, simply the less food waste there is to get rid of at the end of service, the greater the savings. And a very sobering thought for me is whatever the cost of disposing the contents of your food waste bin is, it's likely that it cost you 10 times that amount to fill it up in the first place. So again, people associate food waste with the cost of getting it off site, but actually there's significant costs involved in filling the bin up. And the other thing, people feel good about recycling, and it is very good to recycle and sending your food waste for anaerobic digestion. But as we can see from here, it is far better to prevent the food waste arising in the first place. If you go on to the next slide, Eleanor, please. Yeah, so just a quick overview of to what we really mean by food waste. And in simple terms, edible is any substance that is or was at some point intended for human consumption. Inedible food, such as shells, bones, some peelings or skins. So again, there are cultural differences as to how much of a particular animal or particular vegetable is edible. And the waste then, what we're looking to do is, as we said, prevent wherever we can. And Ellen has already mentioned the idea of keeping skins on your potatoes, reducing wherever possible, training with the kitchen, improving their knife skills, use of vegetable peelers rather than knives. And one example we've had of working with an Indian restaurant is, again, just by measuring their waste, they identified there was a fantastic amount of onion waste in their bins, and through training, they reduced their onion waste by 10% by literally peeling less of the onion. So immediately saved 10% of their ingredient cost for onions. So a no-cost solution to saving 10% on your ingredients costs. So we would also recommend to split out the categories where possible to spoilage, preparation, plate and other waste. And this again helps you highlight where your challenges are. Plate waste, again, look at your portion control, how you can address that. And customer engagement as well. Discuss the menu with them and see what likes and dislikes they have that you may be able to leave off the plate and save for another service. And the classic example being a side salad, which again makes the meal look far more interesting. But if the customer isn't going to eat it, then you may wish to consider leaving that off. Another could be around overproduction and buffet waste, if buffets still exist. And then surplus, again, prevent it happening in the first place, but where there is surplus, there's options to sell it at a reduced price through the likes of Too Good To Go, or donate to charities through Olio, the likes of Olio, Neighbourly, Plan Zeros, or engaging directly with charity locally to your business. On to the next slide, please, Eleanor. So the roadmap itself was developed in conjunction with the Institute of Grocery Distribution, the IGD, and we talk about the roadmap and Target and Measure Act interchangeably, essentially. So we, if we're talking about roadmap, we also mean Target Measure Act. So it's relevant to all sectors: retail, manufacturer, hospitality, and food service, and it's also relevant to all sizes of business who want to take action to reduce their food waste. And if anyone sees this whole exercise as a form-filling exercise, then they really are missing the point. It's all about reducing costs through greater efficiency, identifying the issue and doing something about it. So the stages of the roadmap is, at first, to commit at a senior level to make sure you have the buy-in. And this is just as Peter's explained, it's all about getting management buy-in, so that gives the impetus to drive it forward. And then we'd ask you to set a target aligned with Sustainable Development Goal 12.3, which is looking to reduce food waste by 50% by 2030. And this could be a year-on-year target. It's relative to the size of the business and to the growth of the business. And also, it's got to be relevant to your business. It's got to make sense for you guys to understand it and how to implement it. Measure, so we're asking you to measure in a consistent way, and obviously the best way to do that is through Guardians of Grub, but also if you're using Wise Up on Waste or Food Waste Bad Taste and apps such as Winnow, LeanPath, that's perfectly acceptable as well. We just ask you to get on and do it. And then act. What's the problem? You know, where are the quick fixes? What can you address? And engage in your staff, clients, customers, and supply chain in helping you to reduce food waste. On to the next one, please, Eleanor. So this is a list of the committed businesses, or the HAVs, hospitality and food service businesses that have committed to the roadmap. And 18 months in, we are just shy of 200 committed businesses across all sectors. So these are the 33 businesses from the HAV sector, and 15 of these are implementing, which means they've set themselves a target and are beginning to report against this target. And we also have nearly 50 engagement partners and supporters, including British Beer and Pub Association, the Considerate Group, Royal Academy of Culinary Arts, Sustainable Restaurant Association, UK Hospitality, and all of these supporters are playing their part to promote and support the sector. So it's very much a an industry-wide movement to look at reducing food waste. On to the next slide, please, Eleanor. So we fully understand that businesses are having a lot of challenges at the moment. By committing to the roadmap, you're getting the board level buy-in, and as it says, there's never a good time to implement change, but always a good time to reduce cost. And as George mentioned right at the beginning, now is the time to reassess where you are, bringing sustainability to the fore and change things to make that happen. Customer demand, now more than ever. I think businesses need to deliver to customer expectations. There's always the comment that we don't have a space to segregate the waste. Well, in fact, it is the same volume of waste we're talking about, and ideally, by reducing it, you may need less space to manage your waste as well. And the other thing is to work with your suppliers. They're in a position to help and encourage them to play their part in helping you reduce your waste. And we've also engaged with a number of major waste management contractors who have signed up as supporters to the roadmap, and they are very keen to help their clients better manage and reduce their waste. So please talk with your waste management contractors to see how they may be best placed to help you. On to the next one, please, Eleanor. So the benefits of committing to the roadmap, and one thing we always forget to mention with RAP is there's zero cost to commit. So it's not costing you anything. So why wouldn't you have a go? As Pete mentioned, it gives you a head start on potential legislation, but more importantly, it gives you a head start on reducing costs. In terms of corporate social responsibility, customers are now more selective, more discerning than ever, and it's all about keep people coming through the door. With the Sustainable Development Goal 12.3, you will be doing your bit for a global challenge. So it's every little bit makes a huge difference. And why wouldn't you want to drive down costs and increase profits by reducing food waste? On to the next slide, please, Eleanor. So 3 simple steps. Gain commitment at the appropriate level. As I said, Pete's work there helps you guide or helps you get that buy-in should you need any assistance. Identify your support needs. Eleanor, Pete and myself are here to help. Take the Guardians of Grub competency self-assessment to help identify the gaps for you and the business, and make a start and get measuring. How are you going to measure? Well, by becoming a Guardian of Grub's champion, of course. So get on and make that champion's pledge. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Hugh, and great to see all of that tying together, and ultimately everything aligns with the principle of setting a target for food waste, measuring and tracking progress against that, and then taking action. So that's the really important part. This is an active and positive step to reducing food waste. So we've just got a pause moment to have any Q&A, and I'll just ask Jade if there's any chat questions at all that
There haven't been any chat questions yet, no.
Cool. Well, as I say, we can pick those up afterwards. Please do keep sending those through, and I will move on in that case. Thank you, Hugh, to just the final summary and call to action for everybody. So summary and next steps on the project. So we had a couple of polls actually that we were really keen to share with you. So Jade, are you able to launch the first one, please, which is having heard everything at this session, are you planning on joining the Champions programme? Some of you may not be in a position to make that decision right now, but we do hope that you'll be part of this pioneering programme for the sector, and it would be great to know the sort of timing for that over the next few months, obviously acknowledging that organisations and sites are opening at different times. So great, we'll just leave that live, so please do put your votes in. It'd be great to have your perspectives on that. Great to see October's looking quite popular at the moment. Wonderful, and some in December as well, so that's great. As we mentioned, the pilot is currently planned to close in February, so mid-December would be the last point in time to join, but obviously you can join the project from September, and you might want to give yourselves a bit more time to take those insights and really bed those into your organisation as well, acknowledging that some of these things do take time. Wonderful. Okay, fantastic. I think we've got almost everyone has voted, so thank you very much. I think there's a question on the chat.
No, that was just me letting everyone.
Oh, sorry.
If there was any questions they think of after the webinar, if they can email them to me, and I will collate them all and circulate them afterwards.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for your responses, and we're absolutely delighted that the majority are yeses, and of course totally understand that there are some maybes. These are difficult times at the moment, but please do ask us if you've got any questions or would like any support from RAP to building the case, if that's what's required. And great to see that some are ready in September, which is just brilliant, and thank you for that. And the majority will be moving into this around October time. So again, that's brilliant, and thank you very much. So I'm just going to close the poll now. Great. So can you see those results?
Yes.
Yeah, great. Okay, so I shall just move that off my screen. Oops, sorry. Cool, can everyone see that? So I'm just going to stop sharing the results and just move on to, I can't seem to close it. Oh yeah, sorry. Okay, so in summary, we've got all of your questions. That's brilliant. As Jade says, if you've got any questions after this, please do email us. It was brilliant hearing your questions and getting to understand some of the aspects that you'd like to have addressed within the learning. We are really excited about working with you on this project. You are the pioneers, you are the champions, and this is the first of its kind in terms of an online learning project for the sector on food waste reduction. So thank you for your interest and for participating, and please do ask us if you've got any questions at all. So we've heard that food waste tracking has never been more important, thanks to George from Adam Handling Restaurants. We know that there's going to be a lot of new business models that are happening. So typically pre-COVID, we would have seen food waste reducing quite swiftly at the point that measurement began. This new post-COVID world, we'll see lots of new business models, and some research from Just Eat recently undertaken with the takeaway restaurants that they've been working with have seen that sometimes that food waste has increased as people are getting used to the different ways that customers are asking for services, but also how do you balance that overproduction with demand. So there's lots of learning opportunities. Monitoring covers and footfall, George responded to one of the questions. That's really important to adjust the business model according to those numbers, and we're all learning through this. Wendy mentioned that we'll be having surgeries regularly, and that's for anyone that's involved with the programme, whatever stage you're at. If you're ready to set up, if you're thinking about setting up, if you're actually in the midst of taking those challenges, the surgeries are there for us to support you. So please do join in. You'll be receiving the details for those, the login details for those shortly. We've heard from Wendy talking us through the online learning and giving you a sense of what that looks like, what you'll be committing to. There will be a data sheet in the pilot pack which you can send to us. And we've also heard from Pete about how to get that management buy-in to make sure that this learning it becomes part of the system, that staff are engaged and empowered, and that processes that might be causing waste can actually be amended and reviewed so that that waste helps us all to reduce the impact of food that's being thrown in the bin, and we can tackle that 75% of avoidable food waste, and that's really what we're trying to achieve here. We heard from Hugh linking the UN, the Global United Nations Sustainable Development Goal 12.3, down to the practicalities of taking action on the ground through this course. And really the course is around shining a light on the elephant in the room, acknowledging that food waste does exist, but we need to talk to be able to tackle that, and working across the teams. One of the questions in the Q&A was around how to engage front of house staff. They are absolutely part of the solution. This course is for everyone within the hospitality sector to really get involved and engaged on becoming a guardian of Grub and becoming a champion. And we really want those champions to motivate others and become peer-to-peer ambassadors as well. One of the other really specific points was if you don't have, we've been talking about 4 categories of food waste. If you don't have all 4 categories, so if you don't have prep, spoilage, plate and an other, that's absolutely fine. You just add in what is right for your site at that point in time, and we can discuss all of those things during the surgery. So I'd like to just move on quickly to the next steps. So feedback, please share that with us. So if it's anything about the course, please email Guardians of Grub. If there are technical queries about engaging and uploading data, then please email Wendy. And you need to register any participant users, as Wendy mentioned, through the sheet that will be in the pilot pack. You need to decide on a start date. So as we've mentioned, the system will be live from the 1st of September. We'll be having a participant webinar on the 14th of August, and that webinar will be available online as well. Please engage your teams. We've got the materials to help you do that within the pilot pack, and please get started and really engage with us. Tell us how you're doing through the surgery sessions as well, and you'll have some more information there. But I'd like to close the meeting and thank you so much for your time. You really are the pioneers in the sector. You are the champions, and you are paving the way for the future progress on tackling sustainability at its heart. So economic sustainability, addressing some of the social issues, so redistributing food where it's safe to do so, and obviously those significant environmental benefits. So this really does contribute to tackling climate change as well. So thank you ever so much to all of our speakers and panelists. Thank you to everyone that is on this call and watching this call. It's been fantastic to have your time, and we are really looking forward to hearing how you get on with the course. So thank you very much.